in this video we're continuing our use of formulas in Excel. We're actually just getting into the using the formulas on Excel or spreadsheet, Google Sheets. Those all mean the same thing, mostly to me. So we have an example here. If you invest $500 at 6% interest, calculate the balance after 5 years for each compounding interval. This example might sound familiar because it's the one we did with the simple and compound interest to begin with. Write the formula used and any inputs in proper syntax. So I want you to write out what you're putting into the spreadsheet. That way I know how you got your answer. If it isn't quite right, maybe it's just one of the inputs is wrong slightly, or maybe it's a typo, and then I can give you most of the credit. So I need to see what you're putting into the spreadsheet. Okay, so let's actually back up and do simple interest. If you've never used a spreadsheet before, you can just type in any cell. You can type in any calculation that you want it to do. And a calculation always has to start with an equal sign. New color. The equal sign tells the spreadsheet that you want it to calculate something. So I've got this is my Google Sheets app on my phone, and I've got a spreadsheet, and I made it bigger so I can see what I'm doing. I clicked on a cell, and then down here, no, I don't want to do that. Okay, I clicked on a cell, and then it's at the bottom it says enter text or formula. So I'm going to press right there, and then it brings up these characters, which is really convenient because we don't have them on the keyboard here without pressing another button. So I'm going to hit equals, and then remember a formula that we did in that other video? The simple interest was A equals, so we're starting with the equals, P plus PRT. P plus PRT. So we are going to do equals 500 plus PRT, 500 times. Now, the thing about spreadsheets is they don't have that automatic multiplication if you do parentheses, so you have to put the asterisk, and the asterisk is how you multiply. So PRT, so times, let me just get it back here so you can use that for reference. So we're essentially doing this problem again, but we're doing it with the spreadsheet. So equals 500 plus 500 times 0.06 times 5. And then I can either press this check mark or the enter key down here. I'm going to do the check mark. And voila, our answer is $650. So let's write that out in spreadsheet language. If you want to write down what you typed in, notice if you press on that cell, if you highlight that cell, it'll come up down here. So I could click down there, it goes away, I click back up here, and it shows down there. So that's really handy if you want to find your answer and then type it in once you feel like you have the right answer. So this is 500 plus 500 times 0.06 times 5, and that answer is $650. Okay, so that's just using Excel to do any kind of calculation we want. We can add something, subtract something, multiply, divide. Okay, now let's do the compounded yearly, which we also did on the other page, but now we're going to use the future value function. So I'm going to do equals FV, and we've gone through what all the inputs mean. So if I go here, I'm just going to go here and then clear. Or if you wanted, you could just go down to another cell and keep your work all in the sheet. That's up to you. So enter text or formula, press there. This FX stands for function, so whatever, like formula or function, equals FV, and then when I open the parenthesis, it gives me all of the inputs. And the way that the ones that I wrote Up here, it's the Excel version. Google actually gives you a little bit more information. It spells it all out for you. So rate, okay, compounding yearly. So that's once a year. So our rate will be the 0.06. We don't have to divide it by anything. We're dividing by 1. Then we have to put a comma. That is what separates the inputs. Then the second one, when I put my comma, which there's a comma, 2 places to get the comma, then it highlights number of periods. So number of periods is 5. We're doing this for 5 years. Then the payment amount. Now this is a case where we're not making payments. We'll do that later in later sections. We're not making any payments right now, so that's going to be 0. But like I mentioned, very important to put that 0 in there. Otherwise, it'll think the next number is that number. Present value. So how much is the money worth right now? In other words, what am I putting in right now? And the answer is $500. We're depositing $500 right now to see what it is in the future. So the present value is 500. And we're not going to use the end or beginning. That's the type of payment. We're not going to use that. Just going to ignore it. Then let's do a test. I wonder if I don't close. Oh, sorry. I need to put in the 500 actually. I wrote it down. Okay, here's my test. I want to see if I have to put that closing parenthesis or not, or if it'll just assume. So if I just hit the check mark, okay, didn't like it. So that's what happens if you get an error. It just probably means you're missing a comma, or in my case, I'm missing the last parenthesis. I think Excel's a little more forgiving. It'll just, assume that you meant to put that on there. Okay, $669.11. That is what we got in this example when we did it by hand, right? $669.11. I'll talk about that negative sign in a minute. Okay, the negative sign is interesting because whenever you put in, if you put in a positive 500 here, the spreadsheet will give you a negative result here. Or you could think of it as you're putting in, like you're paying 500 now. If you make that negative, then you will get back $669.11 later. So these are set up to have opposite signs, okay? That I think is more useful in an accounting situation, and you might, if you go into accounting, you will probably use that, but we're not really concerned about the signs here, whether they're positive or negative. So you can think about, think about which one, I would just ignore the signs. That's my philosophy. If you're in Excel, you'll see instead of the negative sign, you'll see a red number with parentheses around it. And that's another way to indicate negative numbers. Okay, so I want to keep going with this example and see what happens if we compound quarterly, monthly, daily, and continuously. Let's see what happens, okay? So the next one, it's going to be very similar. So let me give myself some space to write here. Compounding quarterly, that's 4 times a year. So that's when we have to make our rate per period. So this will now be 0.06 divided by 4. And you could divide it and then put that in the spreadsheet, but you might as well just let the spreadsheet do the math for you. The slash is the division bar, or division symbol. So 0.06 divided by 4. Then I need to change this 5 years times 4, because we'll be getting a quarter of the rate, but 4 times as often. Okay, I wonder what's going to happen here. Then we're still not making any payments, and we're still putting in $500. So now we can see what changes if we compound quarterly. Okay, so I'm using future value. Scoot this up a little bit. 0.06 divided by 4 comma, 5 times 4, comma, 0, comma, 500. Close. Just double check, is that what I want? Okay, I'm going to ignore the negative sign. 673.43. So it's a little bit more than this, isn't it? Does that make sense? So we're compounding 4 times as much, so every time you get interest on your interest, that's happening 4 times as much, so you actually end up with more money. Let's keep going. Compounded monthly would be 12 times a year. So the future value is the same formula we're using. 0.06 divided by 12 this time. We're going to get 1/12 of the interest 12 times, or every month. So we need to take our 5 years times 12, 0, 500. Okay, do you have a guess for how much it's going to be? Let's see if I can go in and just modify my formula. Scoot this up so I can, it's hard to get everything on the screen here. Now it's got the glare from the light bulb. Okay, I'll just cover it up because I know what I'm doing. I want to see if I click down here, if I can just edit my formula. I wish the whole thing was a little bigger. So I want to change the 4 to a 12, and then right there, change the 4 to a 12. Okay, does that look like what I want? 100. Okay, 674. Woohoo, we got one more dollar. 674.43. Compounded daily, and I put 365 on there. I wanted to remind myself because a lot of banks, I guess, actually use 360 instead of 365. We're going to do 365 to match what is on the online homework system. But if you go into accounting, you might know. You might find out that they don't actually use 365. Okay, this is the most times that you would do without going continuously, which we'll talk about next time. So this is getting a 365th of the rate every day. So it's a very small rate, but we do that 365 times over a year for 5 years. So that's a lot of times. Again, you don't have to calculate that out to put that number in. You can just put it right into the spreadsheet. Unless you're curious what that number is. I kind of am. Okay, I'm going to edit again. This time I'm going to try a different way of editing and see if it'll let me do this. I'm going to try double tapping on the cell. And I want to see... Okay, it won't let me edit it up there. So it would if I double tap. It did give me some options. No, it's not doing it now. I'm kind of new to doing this on the phone, but I think it's really cool. Okay, so I have to edit, on my version anyways, I have to edit down here. And I just like that one because it's bigger. I'm going to change the 12 to 365 both times. And we get a new number. $674.91. Okay, so what's going on with this compounding? simple interest, we got 650. And then compounding yearly, we got quite a big jump there, right? And then another jump to quarterly, but not as much. And another jump and another jump. We are getting more money the more we're compounding, but not quite as much each time. So in the next video, we'll talk about compounding continuously and what that means. So I'll see you there.